I want you to come with me to India. This is a vegetable market in the 1980s. I'm 10 years old, and we have hundreds of vegetable sellers trying to sell their vegetables. So we have tomatoes, onions, and carrots, and everybody is yelling at the top of their voice to get your attention. You see, they started their day at 4 o'clock in the morning, got their vegetables, and they've arranged everything in here, and they have to sell everything by the end of the day. Because there's no refrigeration in here, and if they don't sell their vegetables, tomorrow no one's going to buy a day-old vegetables. So let's go to this one store wherein no one is yelling. In fact, this shopkeeper is so busy that all the customers around him are trying to get his attention. This vegetable store is completely different than other vegetable stores. People here are not here just for the vegetables. They are here to see what did the vegetable seller do for art today. He has carved out pumpkins, he has made roses out of carrots, and he has made bouquets out of chives and spinach. He's not just selling vegetables in here, he's selling a vegetable art experience. And that's the unconventional part of this particular vegetable seller. I'm here to talk about what does it take to be unconventional. You see, in today's day and age, with AI, machine learning, we expect novelty in everything. Every 6 months, we expect gadgets to do something unique and differentiated. And we experience all these things in our life on a regular basis. Our social media posts are filled with pictures highlighting the unique us. Look at me, how unique I am. We follow celebrities, and we look at what differentiates them. We see them having millions and millions of followers tracking every move of theirs. Now, I teach algorithmic marketing at Northeastern University, and that's an area which has fascinated me quite a bit. What makes things go viral? How are things differentiated? What makes things unconventional? So in order to look at this whole area of what is unconventionality, I wanted to introspect my own life. I wanted to see, in the spectrum of conventional to unconventional, where do I fall? Am I the conventional type? Am I too unconventional? You see, I like black coffee and dark chocolates like most of you. And I wear suits because I work in the financial services industry and I predominantly have to work with executives. But I also have an unconventional side of me. For me, whenever I think about chocolate, I like to have hot chocolate, but I also like to have it with cookies. I also feel like when I travel, I should have travel which has to have a story built into it. For example, I went to Iceland for a day trip in the middle of winter. I like to do things which are very unique in the way that no one else would do it. For example, if I go on a hike, I like to do math problems in my head, and no one wants to join me for hikes, except for my daughter, who doesn't have any other option but to do math with me when she's hiking or jogging with me. When I started putting together a list of all these things, I found out these are differentiated traits, but that doesn't really have something unconventional in it. And then I started introspecting what aspects of my life are unconventional and how has it really modulated my life. So let me share 5 things which I've learned about being unconventional and how it has affected my life. The first thing I want to talk about is my childhood. And I realized that being unconventional is a mindset, and you got to cultivate it. You see, I grew up in India, which has 1.4 billion people, and everything gets standardized when you have really large numbers. For example, your textbooks get standardized, your tests are standardized, and also your uniforms are standardized. And teachers rank their kids from 1 to 89, and the dreadful report card, and if you're not in the top 10, your parents panic. They send you to tuition classes and try to make sure that you get back into the top 10. My parents were a little different. They said, Shri, you don't have to win the race. You got to learn how to create your own race. And they created experiences for me wherein I learn by doing. For example, when I was learning math, I was given a book called The Trachtenberg Basic System of Speed Mathematics, wherein I learned unique ways of doing math problems. And my dad on walks, he would ask me, what is 111 times 111? And I would immediately say, it's 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Whenever I thought about interesting things and I asked questions, my dad and mom would say, well, let's experience it. For example, I asked once, why do mushrooms don't grow like potatoes? And mom said, well, let's make it as a summer project. Let's grow some mushrooms and see how they grow. And we actually spent a whole summer growing mushrooms and selling mushrooms. Many of those experiences which I have in the childhood basically modulated me. I kind of figured out that you have to experience and cultivate it in order to be unconventional. It kind of leads to my second important lesson I learned in life. Whenever there are multiple paths, I always like to choose the less trodden path. And I wanted to make a difference there. So you see, when I was graduating from college, it was the dot-com era, and everybody wanted to be a web developer. And things which would be very interesting was HTML pages. What that means is you basically take a company's profile and create a web page out of it. In today's day and age, if you ask someone what they want to be, they would say, I want to be a data scientist. But back in the day, I actually liked to work with my hands, and I liked to work with machines. And my favorite thing was my dad's 1976 Vespa scooter. It was an engineering marvel. I would open it up and look at the carburetors and the engine and the way the tires were arranged, and I tried to fix it because it wasn't running. I actually learned quite a bit trying to fix this when my friends were learning HTML, and I thought that it should be my career. I joined a manufacturing company wherein there were huge robots and machines. And those 2 years of experience more or less changed my worldview about machine-human interaction. You see, when you work in a manufacturing company, you have workers who have to trust each other because you're lifting a 200-pound plate and you got to trust your coworker who is helping you lift that particular machine. It's kind of a small kingdom of sorts because you have machines and humans working together, and they're creating new machines. And these machines literally move the world. And I learned that the messy problems are not on clean roads. They are on the shop floors. They are on places wherein no one looks at. And that was something I learned, to look for problems and make a difference in places which has not yet been resolved. And that actually led me to a lot of different things. And one thing I learned along the way was you got to take risks, which many people would avoid. When I started working for large companies, and I've also worked for small companies, I realized the methodology and the mentality is a little different. In large companies, sometimes you have procedures and policies for everything. And I like to work at startups wherein they would just give me a clean sheet of paper and say, there's nothing on it, you go figure. As I learned the ways of working in different kinds of companies, I realized that it's where you can make the most impact in places where there are no solutions. And that was where I found my place as an entrepreneur. I found that you could work on interesting problems wherein there are no established solutions or templates. I found that it was easy to kind of become the first person to create something and show it to the world, that this is how things are done. And the world may accept it or may say, well, no, this is not what we are looking for, and you can go back to the drawing board. But I would say a career of an entrepreneur is the most unconventional of choices because you don't have any rules. You're setting the rules for yourselves. You're unleashing your creativity, but you're trying to solve problems for others. And the fourth thing I learned as I went through my journey was that you got to be intentionally unconventional, otherwise you're going to lose your way. It so happened that I was working on an important problem, and I had very limited time, and I was trying to figure out what kind of a solution would be optimal in this particular case. And I was losing my way, and I was just trying to get things done. And something magical happened that particular day. I saw my daughter, who's 8 years old, in the garden working with weeds and stones and grass from the garden. There were no art supplies. And she was creating art. And I paused. And I observed what she was doing. She was creating these amazing pieces of art. And she was just cleaning them aside and then creating new pieces of art. When I asked her what she was doing, she said, I'm creating art, but once I'm done, I go back to the drawing board and start again. And then I realized that unconventionality is like a muscle. If you don't exercise, you're not going to improve upon it. So I had to go back to my drawing board and start the problem from scratch again to make sure that I got the best solution out there rather than just getting something done. Along the way, I've realized that you have to have one important trait that defines the unconventional you. You see, when I went through so many experiences I shared with you, I realized that during my childhood, I was experimenting on so many things to understand how things work. When I found that there are various ways I could take my career, I chose paths wherein I did not understand. I had to experience it to frame my worldview about how machines and humans work. When I had choices about whether to go for somebody's rule book and then make sure that I adhere to the rule book or create my own rules, I experimented and I chose my own rules. When I found out that things were not working, I found out that the best way to do it is just go back to the drawing board. And then I realized the unconventionality in me is determined by my ability and my openness to experimentation. And I started putting things together, and then I realized the company I'm working towards and the company I'm building is building solutions to make experimentation easy. In fact, the product we have is what's called as a Q sandbox, basically a sandbox to build experiments. And then I realized, it's all coming together. I'm basically leveraging all the experiences I've had in my life and building something unique, something differentiated, so that it becomes easy for you to experiment. And that's the unconventional side of things I've realized through my introspection. But I also think that there are so many lessons which could be generalized, and hopefully those are helpful to you. When you have an opportunity to understand something, I would advocate go and try it instead of just listening to somebody's best practice. When you have an opportunity to take different paths, look for one which does not have all the answers and it's open to exploration. When you have a choice about here are the rules, go follow, or you can go and frame your own rules. Go frame your own rules. Because at times, you're going to realize and experience so much more than just following somebody else's rules. And don't be scared about going back to the drawing board. Because if you think that you are too late, you're just going towards suboptimal solutions. And suboptimal solutions means that you are aiming at an average at best. And finally, spend some time to understand what makes you unconventional and what aspects of you are unconventional. Because everybody of us, we have something unconventional in it, and that's what's driving us to do interesting things. And please, 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 do not think that you should just adhere to the norm. Question everything and find that unconventional you, because the unconventional you defines you. Thank you.